up, Tzu Chi continues its relief efforts in the Philippines to help typhoon survivors. We join US Tzu Chi volunteers as they reach out to help needy residents in both California and Texas. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Wendy Chen. Thank you for joining us. First up in the Philippines, prior to the large-scale distribution in Omak City today on November 22nd, Tzu Chi volunteers have begun distributing relief cards to local residents. Meanwhile, in Anibon district of Tacloban City, some 600 residents gathered at a local school to take part in Tzu Chi's Cash for Work program.
Close to 600 residents of Tacloban City's Anibong have gathered at this local Chinese school since early morning. They're here to take part in Tzu Chi's Cash for Work program.
The minimum wage here is only 238 Philippine pesos, and the Tzu Chi is giving 500, which is more than double the minimum wage. So as you can see, they are extremely happy.
After separating everyone into teams, Tzu Chi volunteers first lead everyone in prayer. Reminded of the loss of their homes and loved ones during the typhoon, some residents can't hold back the tears.
We don't want them to think that they are here to work and Tzu Chi is paying them a wage. That's not the purpose of this program, and they are well aware of that. They know what they are really getting in return is Tzu Chi's care. Here in Tacloban City's Anibong district, the streets remain cluttered with debris. Right now, residents are devoting their efforts to Tzu Chi's Cash for Work program as they hope to rebuild their homes as quickly as possible. Tzu Chi volunteers also seize the opportunity to educate local residents on recycling.
I lost my livelihood because of the disaster, but Tzu Chi has given us this opportunity to make a living, and for that I'm truly grateful.
Within half a day, the streets of Anibong are already showing a remarkable difference. As Tzu Chi's Cash for Work program has seen a positive response in Anibong, it is also hoped that more residents can add their efforts on this path to recovery.
Thank you very much.
Residents hurry to get a spot in line, as they're afraid if they come a little too late, they won't receive anything. Upon learning that aid supplies are being handed out, disaster survivors immediately flock to the temporary shelters.
The medicine and relief supplies are all free.
After having settled everyone down, Tzu Chi volunteers begin distributing relief cards. Despite the scorching sun, residents nevertheless wait patiently in line.
Thank you so much for the staff of your foundation supporting with us.
I need a doctor to treat my eyes. I feel some discomfort in my eyes.
My 3 children are all ill. My eldest and second child both have colds. My youngest has an ear infection and the wound is festering.
DaAi TV's reporter visited this woman's home, only to discover a cramped space in which a family of 6 live. What this family needs the most now is outside assistance.
In preparation for the large-scale distributions, which will begin on November 22nd, Tzu Chi volunteers are distributing relief cards to local residents. Apart from material support, residents here are also in desperate need of medical attention. Therefore, Tzu Chi's medical team are making their way into the disaster-stricken areas to tend to the sick and suffering.
In Taiwan, a delegation from Tzu Chi's medical mission, including 5 doctors from the Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital, will depart for the Philippines on November 22nd to carry out free clinics in the areas devastated by Typhoon Haiyan. Prior to their departure, their peers presented these doctors with travel bags as a symbol of their support and well wishes.
下面有个铃铛，那就是意思就是说平安来临，送给我们的这次的医疗团来祝福他们。
Accepting travel bags from their superintendent are 5 doctors from the Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital, who are joining Tzu Chi's medical mission in the Philippines.
As current conditions in the disaster areas might induce infectious diseases, medical care cannot be put off any longer. We have to go in and provide assistance.
Hand sanitizers, wet wipes, surgical masks and plasters are all packed into the travel bags. The gift is to wish the doctors safety and success in their medical mission.
It is at times like these that medical personnel are really able to do what they are good at. We hope they go there with a sincere heart and they are able to relieve the suffering they find.
Medical staff and Tzu Chi volunteers come together in sincere prayer, hoping that these disaster survivors may soon walk out from under the clouds of despair.
Following the devastation caused by Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines, Tzu Chi volunteers worldwide, including team members, have mobilized to bring love to the typhoon survivors. In South America, volunteers from the Tzu Chi Brazil Liaison Office went to Francisco Morato to hold a free clinic where they encouraged participants to give a little of their love. And in Malaysia, team members from Kuala Lumpur and Selangor joined volunteers in fundraising at a local shopping mall.
Here at the local shopping mall, Kuala Lumpur and Selangor team volunteers bring their families to canvas for donations for Haiyan typhoon survivors.
This event gives our children a great opportunity to learn to give and show their compassion. Though we cannot go to the disaster areas to help the survivors in person, we can still help out through different means, like canvassing for donations.
Among the fundraisers is Xie Miaozhuang, who, despite being a first-timer, has learned to overcome her psychological barriers and now is able to express her thanks to the donors.
As I say thank you, I always cry, so I usually stand behind the other volunteers and don't say anything. But now I have learned to express my thanks to them openly. Poor disaster survivors in the Philippines, I feel so sorry for them.
During the event, the volunteers also take the opportunity to introduce Tzu Chi to members of the public and recruit those who are interested in joining.
Tzu Chi volunteers are always the first to arrive in the disaster areas. I'm very moved by your kind gesture on behalf of those in need around the globe. My friend introduced me to this event, and I really cherish this opportunity to do my part to help.
With the love pouring in worldwide, the typhoon survivors are one step closer to get back on their feet. Meanwhile, in Brazil, Tzu Chi volunteers organized a free clinic during which they invited participants to join Tzu Chi's charity mission.
My shoulders have ached for many years. The pain from my right shoulder is more serious than my left one. And my knees have been painful too in these last 2 weeks. Sometimes they were too painful for me to fall asleep at night. I couldn't raise my shoulders in this way. If I rotate them, they really hurt. However, after the acupuncture treatment, I can raise my shoulder easily and the pain is just gone.
Here at the Brazil Tzu Chi Liaison Office, Tzu Chi volunteers carried out another free clinic offering a variety of medical services, including traditional Chinese medicine, dentistry, gynecology, and pediatrics. Through the careful medical attention of team doctors and volunteers, these patients all returned home with relaxed mind and bodies. In Francisco Morato, Tzu Chi volunteers organized free clinics on a regular basis and have built a close connection with local residents as a result. Knowing that Tzu Chi is canvassing for donations for Haiyan typhoon survivors, numerous patients donate to Tzu Chi.
Of course, since Tzu Chi volunteers and team of doctors help us, we can help the less fortunate too.
I'm very touched since I'm able to help the needy in the Philippines.
Despite living in poverty themselves, these patients are still doing their best to give because they know that the greatest blessings come from a giving heart.
Also doing their part to help have been Tzu Chi volunteers in the United States and Canada who were canvassing for donations on the streets. In Toronto, Canada, despite the limited manpower, volunteers young and old did their best to raise funds. And in the United States, the fundraising campaign put together by New York Tzu Chi volunteers saw a huge public outpour of love. Here on the bustling streets in New York, US Tzu Chi volunteers are canvassing for donations from the general public to help the disaster survivors in the Philippines.
Okay, you have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. These too, right?
When the typhoon, as they call it there, hit a couple of weeks ago, whenever it was, my first thought was, oh, I bet that Tzu Chi Buddhists will be out on the street collecting money. I'll have to look for them. So, because I know when I give Tzu Chi money that it goes to the people that need it.
The sincerity of the Tzu Chi volunteers makes a deep impression on passers-by, including 3 Filipino girls who are praying for their homeland through song.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying.
Choosy people, yeah, just now. We saw them and they're roaming around, raising also funds for the Philippines. We're so touched and blessed because I thought it's just Filipinos who are the one who volunteers, but
Besides taking to the streets, volunteers also seize every opportunity to raise funds by going store to store. Despite the drizzling rain, volunteers persist with their mission.
I just do what I can do, that's all.
I have a lot of Filipino friends. I go to church, they're all Catholic. I'm Catholic, so I donate to them.
Whether rain or shine, and regardless of the amount of donations collected, the love will all go to help those in need. As winter is just around the corner, the temperature in Toronto, Canada is only around 10 degrees Celsius. However, Tzu Chi volunteers can still be seen on the streets, raising funds to help those affected by Typhoon Haiyan.
爱心到菲律宾，慕你一份爱心，谢谢你，谢谢。
The young man on the wheelchair is a Tzu Chi care recipient who, in spite of his current immobility, puts on a volunteer vest to reciprocate the love he has received.
This is my first time participating in a fundraising event, so I'm quite nervous and shy, but I believe I will do better next time. What's most important is to send our love to the Philippines and help the disaster survivors.
The manpower is limited as some volunteers have returned to Taiwan. The remaining volunteers and even students of the local Tzu Chi Academy all come together to help fundraise.
I think having this opportunity to raise funds is wonderful. At home, we don't know how to help. If we just donate, it will be just us giving what we can. However, if we can help with fundraising, we can gather everyone's love and send it to the Philippines.
I'm really grateful to all our volunteers. Everyone is working really hard to raise funds. Even our senior volunteers were on their feet 12 hours a day just to fundraise for the disaster survivors in the Philippines.
Teachers of the Tzu Chi Academy encourage students to donate their allowance and put their blessings into drawings. As everyone comes together in sincere prayer, they hope to pass on their love to all those in need. In the United States, Tzu Chi volunteers are busy carrying out winter aid distributions and relief work to help the needy. In San Jose, California, volunteers held a winter aid distribution for the homeless to fight the cold winter months ahead, while in Austin, Texas, volunteers returned to help flood survivors move on with their lives by handing out cash cards and blankets.
In Austin, Texas, Tzu Chi volunteers returned to Perez Elementary School to hold a relief distribution for survivors. Many residents still recall the events of the flooding earlier this November with a tremor in their voice.
Water started coming in very fast, and we got flashlights and water and ran upstairs and saw the water get higher and higher outside our home.
Everybody's on their roof who was able to get there at 10 o'clock, so that's about 4 hours into the flood.
Seeing the devastation, volunteers know full well the helplessness residents feel, and thus brought cash cards and blankets for 290 affected households.
And this will go towards providing food for my family and also getting a deposit ready so I can at least move on and get on to another place so I can stay home for me and my family.
We're really blessed. Thank you so much for all your help.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The elementary school also arranged for translators to ease the distribution process. Receiving Tzu Chi's eco-friendly blankets, residents' hearts are warmed.
They need so much. You know, the families have lost everything. So the school alone, we can't help them with the need. So when the Tzu Chi Foundation comes and says, we can also help.
Following the senseless disaster, Tzu Chi volunteers were able to provide warmth and heart to help Austin residents on their path to recovery. Meanwhile, in San Jose, California, a winter aid distribution for the homeless was being planned. Tzu Chi volunteers recruited community members to ready relief supplies.
Yes, I'm liking it.
Tzu Chi and the homeless in San Jose are no strangers to each other, as over the past few years, volunteers have been doing their part to help feed the homeless. Already 79 years old, Zhou Shuying is reciprocating the love volunteers showed her husband during the last leg of his life.
I am old, but I still wish to give my love in my remaining years, similar to the love you have shown me.
Seeing the suffering of Hurricane Sandy survivors, many members of the audience donate the coins they had on their persons to the bamboo coin banks.
They are poor and homeless, yet still willing to donate whatever they had to help. Really touched me.
No matter if it is helping disaster survivors or the homeless, Tzu Chi volunteers treat everybody with the same respect and warmth they deserve.
In the aftermath of Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines, disaster survivors have been struggling without food, shelter, or safe drinking water. To help, Tzu Chi volunteers have sent 3 water purification systems to the disaster zones. Next, we learn more about the Q water purification system, which was designed and produced by Taiwan's own Water Resource Agency and Industrial Technology Research Institute.
What do you do when you are in the wild and have no access to clean drinking water? Don't worry, as long as you have access to water, even muddy water, you can turn it into drinkable water by simply pouring the liquid into an umbrella.
First, rainwater or muddy water will go through a simple purification process. Next, pressure is added and the water will flow through a thin layer of hollow fiber membrane. After these 2 steps, the rainwater or muddy water will be much cleaner.
In the future, an umbrella or even a walking cane can become a portable water purification device. This new concept was inspired by the Q water purification system.
A water purification system needs at least 3 days to a week to set up. Our system, however, only needs about 20 minutes. The size of the machine is about 8 to 10 times smaller than traditional ones. It is very convenient and easy to transport. Furthermore, the water that comes out from the system meets the standards for drinking water.
In the aftermath of Typhoon Morkot in Taiwan, many areas were left without access to clean drinking water. The disaster inspired the researchers of ITRI to come up with a system that could convert wastewater into drinkable water.
This system can provide clean drinking water to about 6,000 to 7,000 residents in a remote village. When a disaster occurs, it is very inconvenient for the disaster survivors if they have no access to water, especially safe drinking water.
With compassion in their hearts, these researchers have worked around the clock to develop this new technology. To come up with a smaller version of the water purification device that can desalinate salt water, Chen Jianhong and his team have been working tirelessly testing different materials.
We need to constantly remodify the steps to see which method works better with the machine. We have already conducted countless trials with different filters.
After filtering through the first and second layer, one can see a significant difference in the quality of the water. Next, the samples are taken back to the lab for further tests. During break time, students all rush to get a cup of water from the drinking machine.
It is not as easy as we think to have access to clean drinking water. In Taiwan, only 80% of areas have access to tap water. Luofu Elementary School in Taoyuan County was one of these areas without safe drinking water.
Before, we had to collect mountain water, and there was no guarantee of our water source. Sometimes when it rained, the pipes would be blocked by leaves or tree branches. After heavy rain, water that flowed out from the taps tended to be mixed with mud and sand.
Thankfully, 4 years ago, researchers at the ITRI decided to set up a test site at the Luofu Elementary School. Since then, researchers have been visiting the school on a regular basis to make sure students continue to have access to clean drinking water. Currently, around the globe, there are more than 1 billion people without access to safe drinking water. Furthermore, with the quickening pace of global warming, will a shortage of water be in Taiwan's future? Although there is no definite answer, it is obvious that the technology to convert wastewater into drinkable water will be a lifesaver for many.
This year, the 19th Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is held this month in Poland. Many government representatives and non-government organizations, including Tzu Chi volunteers from Taiwan and the United States, gathered in Warsaw to discuss climate change and ways to create low-carbon societies. Let's take a look.
We are running out of time. In Warsaw, Poland, that is the main conclusion of the COP19's first week. Today, the Tzu Chi delegation team from the USA and Taiwan was reunited to attend several meetings on how critical the situation is country by country, especially regarding carbon dioxide emissions.
We are absolutely running out of time, and at the same time there is hope that if we act, that then we can make it.
Our master told us is running out of time, actually the Earth. And the data show is also the same because most of the countries still emit a lot. Even we have Kyoto Protocol before, but the CO2 emissions still increase a lot. What's the reason?
According to German Watch, today no country is doing enough to prevent dangerous climate change, and more than half are already poor or very poor because of their high emissions and their lack of renewable energies. But countries and NGOs remain optimistic that solutions will be found.
This is obvious, this is in front of everybody. The need for action on climate change is not questionable, but the urgency in working with government, in pushing government for more ambitions, it's now.
In the future, we should do more because the pressure is going on and on. The temperature will increase very quickly.
During the next 4 days of COP19, both governmental and non-governmental organizations will work together in order to progress and find concrete solutions without waiting any longer.
Actually, the COP19 is just the beginning. Our final decision will be 2 years later.
If we lose some more years, it will be extremely expensive to limit global warming to a reasonable path. Now we have to make this turnaround in the next couple of years.
In Taiwan, at the 10th Eco-Awareness Camp held by the Tzu Chi University in Hualien, overseas students who are currently studying in Taiwan are invited to take part and share ideas on how to better protect our environment. Students from 17 countries also put their love for the planet into action by cleaning up a local beach. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.